Hi everyone, Dave at Cheltmental. I'm going to start doing a few more of these videos this season. Hopefully I can create some nice visual content to go with some of the comments that I'm saying. I'm getting really excited the fact the National Hunt season's it's on the fringe really, isn't it? We've only got a couple of months to go until we have that Chepstow season opener. October meeting at Cheltenham. I'm chomping at the bit to get going with this now. Sick of all the flat racing. But the summer does give me a good opportunity to go through replays of last season's sort of races, the big festivals, look at some of the sales that are going on. So you'll have seen me post a few times about the store sales. I'm really keen on following some of those purchases, mostly to see where they go when they go pointing or when they go under rules. But there's always some interesting stuff there. Obviously the point sales, as I just mentioned, and you'll have seen today that I'll have put some things up on the website about horses that have been sold. So a few that I think are worth taking note of. A few of them will be quite obvious, but there will hopefully be a handful in there that you won't have heard before. If you have, it doesn't really matter, does it? We're all just trying to build a big collective list. And all the horses that don't make the cut on there, I will make you aware of as the season goes on in that little one to watch bit that I do on the page as soon as the entries come out each week. We've also put on there 25 of the 50 horses to follow that I mentioned last year have continued on. So not all of them made it to the racetrack. Those that haven't have rolled on. They're all worth keeping an eye on, I think, especially the ones that have run. But I'll give you these sort of information as I go on through the season. But I do think there's a Colin Tizard horse, Fostenovok or Fostenovstock or something like that. That's pretty much what it is. That's a horse that I think potentially could be quite good. There was a comment Colin Tizard made on an interview on the TV where he wasn't really allowed to finish what he was saying about that horse, but I just got the feeling that he wanted to say something about it. So taking his time with him, could have made a start last season, hasn't, but we'll see as the season goes on. Until these horses make the track and until they're doing what they can do, we don't really know. They've got price tags, they've got point form, but until they're running under rules and they've been settled in with their new camp and we see how they develop in terms of stature, size and ability, we're just guessing. And that's the point of these lists that I'm bringing out, is just to give you an idea of horses that I think are worth keeping an eye on, especially at the start of the season. And a lot of them, there's a view to further down the line. So if there's a horse that I think's got some real ability, and it maybe doesn't get the luck in running, or maybe the tactics haven't been quite right for it, I do sometimes see a good punting opportunity for him. Quite a few of you will have got stuck in on Benny's Bridge at trials there at Cheltenham. Now, he was a horse that he wasn't really trying, I don't think, at Chepstow at the beginning of the season, but looked like a horse of ability. Pulled his head off the next couple of times in reasonable company. I think he might have even fallen in between all of that, but he got a really lenient handicap mark. Actually ran out of the handicap slightly at Cheltenham on New Year's Day, but Paddy Brennan, under an ice cool ride, delivered him and he won in good style. That was the same day that we had the Win 6 up on Colossus, actually, which didn't get filled. But never mind, him going in that last race made up for everything. And there's a few other opportunities that we'll get. So the main one that I'm talking about for now, which is the point of doing this video, is my personal picks of 20 horses that I think are worth keeping an eye on, especially at the start of the season. Now, I have got, not necessarily a script, but I've got a post that I'll be putting on the website that has a write-up on each of these horses. So it's not going to be a one-liner like it has been for the point-to-point horses. But I will talk about some of them now, and then hopefully with the use of this green screen behind me, I'm going to be able to put a few visual bits up on there. I reckon my head's probably taken up too much of the screen, but it's early days. The first one we've done, we'll get going. So with these 20 horses that are my personal picks to follow, I've left out the real obvious ones just because they're obvious. Everyone knows about them. My steer with this is maybe even the ones that you would class as obvious that I put in here. Hopefully that would suggest that maybe they are real good ones, but we need to see how they all progress. There's a couple of horses in here that have been injured as well, so we need to see how they've come back from that. But again, go back to the Benny's Bridge thing, we're potentially looking at horses that we can get stuck into, not necessarily looking at Grade 1 winners or even Cheltenham Festival winners, although there will be some in here that I think will progress into that. So we'll start off with Portrush Ted. He won the Aintree 2018 bumper, looked a real hot bumper at the time. Form's been reasonably frank last season, so Cateson was in there, third in the Challow Hurdle. Harambe was in behind and he ran second behind Getaway Trump in that Sandown Novices Handicap Hurdle. That was a real decent effort. And if you go a bit further down the line as well, we've got Al Dancer was in there, so he was sent off joint favourite to Supreme, won the Betfair Hurdle, the rearranged race at Ascot. Mr. Fisher was further behind, Grade 2 winner, so strength for that form looks quite good. He was out last season, ran in August in a 3-mile novice hurdle, and that is about the trip that I think we were looking at for him. I did pitch him as a bit of an a Bartlett horse. He's full brother to Bundoran and Chantal Village. Yep, Chantal Village. And that was the one that could have won an Albert Bartlett, but didn't. So yeah, I pitched him as that sort of horse. For Albert Bartlett types, I like them to show some speed. So I'd like to see him run over 2-mile hurdles. That didn't happen. He picked up a tendon injury, not saying it was in that race, but a month after it was announced he was out for the season. So he's lost his novice status, but he looked like he was probably a chaser in the making anyway. The key thing with this horse, and the reason why he's on my list, is that the official handicap has given him a rate mark of 131. So I mentioned all those horses before, especially the, Al Dancer, the Betfair Hurdle winner. 131 looks very lenient. He is going to probably be a chaser this season, but why not go and pick up a handicap hurdle with him at the beginning of the year? Or potentially, if they're sticking him over fences, that mark will float over. So I think Portrush Ted is worth keeping an eye on. King d'Argent, so he ran in the Fred Winter for Dan Skelton. Now, Dan Skelton's not afraid to run his horses quite a lot. King d'Argent's one of those in the category that he looks like he's probably quite useful in the sense that Dan Skelton's minded him. He ran at Market Raisin behind a Jarly, the Nicky Henderson horse that hasn't really shown what he's probably capable of. He slaughtered King d'Argent that day, but I had someone at the racecourse who told me that the Skeltons and connections looked visibly frustrated that he didn't get closer to a Jarly. He had a wind up after, said he'd run well in the Fred Winter, and he did come in fourth, I think, at a big price. So he's off the same mark this season. We'll have to see how he goes on, but I just think that the Skeltons are decent at getting these handicap hurdlers to go and win. Won quite a few times around Cheltenham as well, these types of horses. So maybe October, November meeting, we'll see what this course is capable of, but I think they think he's quite good. Again, not saying all these horses are going to turn into Grade 1 winners, especially not those first two that I've mentioned, but I'm just saying these are nice horses that I think we can get a bit on. Seldenege was also running the Fred Winter, so it was his first run for Willie Mullins, Ruby Walsh Road. I think he stayed on really nicely. He's up a little bit from his handicap mark there. He's still a maiden over hurdles, so whether he'll be actually handicapping this season, I don't really know. They can just go and stick him in some maidens or novice hurdles. Just looks like he could be a nice type, and if he did end up in a handicap, then he's definitely got some ability, so I'd probably like to see him get his head in front, but he's one that I've put on there that may not be on everyone's radar. Pick Dorhey, Paul Nicholls, probably will be on a lot of people's radars. Rated probably too high to run in the Fred Winter. He's 146, I think, was his official rating. They were umming and ahhing whether they were going to get him ready in time for the Triumph, so whatever happens, it was a rush preparation for the Triumph. Harry Cobden still sat on Keldestan, understandably so, having won round the track. I just think they got him ready to go running the Triumph. They could have waited for this season. He's always going to make a chaser. I think a lot of these trainers will stick a horse at Cheltenham to give him a bit of experience around there, see how they handle it. It's valuable. You're not going to get a chance to run at the Cheltenham Festival again until the season after. Sam Twiston Davies probably did mind him there. He did it before with the horse that went and ran in the Supreme Grand Sancy, so he minded that. I think that was in the Fred Winter, but I think he was just there for experience. His rating means that he's going to have to be going against some proper horses. He's not going to be able to run in handicaps and win off that mark, but he's one to keep an eye on over the foreseeable anyway. One for the road, Tom. So Harry Fry's horse, rated 124 now. I thought he was going to win at Ayr. Quick round that day. He fell. There was a couple of fallers and a couple of pulled up in there. It was a bit of a frenetic pace, but it was first time cheek piece for the horse. They really seemed to sort him out with his jumping, bar the bad mistake. He is blatantly a novice. I mean, he's had 7 starts over fences. He still hasn't won, so he carries that novice status into next season. I think he only even won once over hurdles, but 124, this horse is miles better than that, so I reckon we're going to get a chance to smash into him. He did go running Ireland after that fall at Ayr. 2 out, he was easily beaten by a horse, Young Paddy Mac, or Paddy MC. There was a loose horse in the race that kept jumping across to the side. I don't know why, but Danny Mullins got on the wrong side of that horse going into the 2 out, or it must have been the last maybe. It brought him down, hampered him. So one for the road, Tom was back in with a chance, and then he smashed into the last and ballsed up again. But Don't know whether he'd have won that day. I just think around the mark that he is, he's going to win races. He'll be another year wiser. Still got that novice status. I don't think 1,000,001 people are going to be keeping an eye on him either. There's a Tom Lacey bumper horse, so Ling Corriglebe. That's definitely not how you say it, but we'll stick the names up on the screens. Won his only rules start, junior bumper as a 3-year-old. Created quite a good impression that day. Form probably hasn't really worked out. There was rumours that he was going to go to the 4-year-old bumper New Year's Day at Cheltenham. That didn't transpire, so whether he picked up a niggle or maybe they were minding him for next season, I don't know. Just the vibe I got from that first one looked quite good. So he's one you'd want to keep an eye on at the beginning of the season. Let's just see how he maybe runs and see how he maybe progresses. There was a couple of photos that I put up on the page about these horses I was excited to see. The one with the eye, that's going to be the head of this link, is King Roland. So that's another one for Harry Fry. It's owned by the same connections as Neon Wolf. He, like Neon Wolf, started at Utoxeter and won his bumper in emphatic fashion. It wasn't exactly the same bumper as Neon Wolf in terms of the timings. There's a few at Utoxeter in December, early December, I think, but still round there. I think he went to Fosslas after that, and that bumper probably didn't really look that great, to be honest, and he didn't really win it that convincingly, but he just looks a really nice type. I was at Harry Fry's, and that morning while I was waiting to speak to him, he was actually schooled in King Roland. That was the first time he's gone over hurdles, and he looked pretty good then. Got to see him in his stable, and he looks he's confident with himself, but I don't want to say it as a negative, but he's a confident horse. He knows he's quite good. He's also quite calm with it all as well. He does race at a hood, so I don't massively like that for real young horses. When they're his sort of age and doing those sort of things, I can maybe understand it a little bit, but it's something to bear in mind that those horses with hoods, they've got them on for a reason. One note that I will say with that is you look at the likes of Surname, that's always raced with a hood since he's been with Paul Nicholls. His last race in France, he wore the hood. Then as soon as they take the hood off, kept the tongue tie on, but took the hood off for the 2 runs at Ascot, and all of a sudden he's the highest rated tracer in National Hunt training. So the potential with King Roland is he's going to be a really good chaser. This season, maybe the Ballymore wouldn't be out of his sort of depth, but we'll have to see how good he transpires, because that second bumper wasn't really fantastic, but his first one was really good. The hood worries me a tiny bit for the short term, but when he goes over fences, and he might be able to correct that, and he might just grow out of needing the hood. Maybe it's just because he's that confident with himself that he likes to mess about a little bit, but he looks a really, really smart sort over obstacles. Get in the queue, another Harry Fry horse, another one that's only running bumpers, so he gave Noel Feely his last ever ride when he won the Grade 2 bumper at Newbury. That's a race that Harry Fry likes to send horses at. He won it with Caribert, won it with Bullionaire, and Bags Groove was runner-up before that. But yeah, I think he looks a really nice type. And where I gave the comparison with King Roland to Neon Wolf, basically because of the connections, Get in the Queue reminds me slightly of If the Cap Fits. However, I think that Get in the Queue will like an undulating course like a Cheltenham, whereas I don't think it will particularly suit If the Cap Fits. He's a very nice horse. Obviously went and won at Aintree himself. They'll be going down the, Harry route with him, Ascot, and then those sorts of races. And they will ultimately aim at the Stayers Hurdle at Cheltenham, but I'm not 100% convinced that'll be his type of track, whereas I think with Get in the Queue it will be. And when they step him up in trip to the middle distance, I reckon he could be another one that could be a weapon. We're going on to a few of Willie Mullins' horses now. Black Bow, so didn't win at the Cheltenham bumper, but was fancied as the best Willie Mullins horse there. Patrick Mullins has always raved about this horse, and he missed all the last season. So from what I understand, it was just a little setback. I think the ground may have played a part as well, because he would probably want it slower than most. But I just think he would have probably appreciated that break. He looks a proper chaser in the making. They obviously think he's very good. I don't know, maybe that extra year of break that he's had might lean him into being, maybe stay a little bit further. But I looked at him as like quite a speedy type. But I know plenty of people will remember him anyway, so this might just be to refresh some of those that maybe missed a lot of last season, or the season before, maybe when he just jumped in. Energumene, so we didn't see this horse in the bumper last season for Willie Mullins, but I think he's decent. We'll have to see what he's doing with him this season, but he's a 5-year-old going on 6 this year, so you'd probably like to think maybe stick him in an early bumper and then get him over hurdles, or maybe even just straight over hurdles. But I do think this horse could be top grade over hurdles. We just need to see him out on a racecourse to sort of validate that. Another Willie Mullins one, carefully selected. So where I said that I looked at Portrush Ted as a probable Albert Bartlett horse, carefully selected was that. The frustrating thing with this horse is there wasn't really anything wrong with him. They were waiting for the ground to run. They were waiting for the ground to run. I think it was either January or February time he could have run. Willie Mullins didn't declare him, so let him go at the final declaration stage, and then it weeded down the night before the racing, and the ground would have been soft enough for him to run if he'd just left him in. So he missed that, so he couldn't make his debut essentially till March. The owner's known to like Punchestown, so I'm guessing they gave the sighter in March to go run him at the 3 mile hurdle like they did at Punchestown. He ran creditably there, to be fair, considering he hadn't had that much racing. There's only I know Willie Mullins can get him fit, but there's only so much a bumper horse can then go and win, like running hurdles. The clear key with this horse was they want to get him over fences, so they were happy to not waste his hurdle season last year, but they were happy to get it over and done with. He's a 7-year-old already. Hopefully they'll get him out by Christmas time. We'll have to see what the ground does with him, because that obviously is a key thing with this horse. And we have to bear in mind that the owner does like Punchestown, but I thought he'd be an Albert Bartlett type, so I think he'll be an RSA horse. And then speaking of RSA horses, that takes us on to the next horse, Next Destination. Plenty would have been raving about him last season, obviously missed the whole year. Just looked at Dower Stayer, bit clumsy over his hurdles, looks a horse that will love going over a fence. Obviously with the carefully selected thing there, where both the Willie Mullins horses will be running in that sort of division, we'll have to just see who comes out on top out of those two, but clearly both of those are well worth watching. Now the second horse that I pictured, that most of you probably won't know about, although I'm sure a handful of you will because of the Racing Post comments that he was given, is a horse called Hostile. So he's owned by Alan King. He's a half-brother to Valdez, so they're both out of skew, but this one's a Molina's gelding, whereas Valdez is out of by Doyen, sorry. Now, Valdez never really achieved his full potential. He still ran last season as a 12-year-old. Alan King, maybe it's a bit quietly known, but he really, really, really loves Valdez. That's why he bought his half-brother. I think he was maybe keen to go down another sire route just for the sake of, maybe full siblings don't always live up to the potential or the ability of the older brothers or the older siblings. But Valdez looked a proper horse. Hostile looked a proper horse when I saw him at Barbary Castle at the beginning of 2018. He got a big white blaze, similar to Valdez, although Valdez pretty much went eye to eye. He looked a decent sized horse then. He came out and ran in a bumper last season. Now, I missed him in that bumper because I didn't even realise that he'd been named yet. I watched the race, saw this decent looking green horse running quite promisingly, thinking, Jesus, that's one to watch. Transpired it was Hostile. Racing Post comments in that particular race read, ran green promising, so I think quite a few people might have noted that, but look, Valdez was supposed to be a very, very high class chaser. That might be where Hostile's future is going to lie. But Alan King has trained some really, really decent hurdlers as well. I think Valdez achieved about 130s over hurdles and was mid 150s without achieving his full potential over fences. So that's probably where Hostile's going to lie. But I can't wait to see this boy in the flesh again this season and see how he gets on through the year. But I think he looks like he could be a really good horse. We've got a Gigginstown horse, 6-shooter. So he won a Punchestown bumper last year that I put up. I think he was 14s in a small field, was getting weight, and there was a claimer on board. I think that form of that race will work out really well. He starts this season as a 4-year-old. He was only a baby in that race, which is why he got the allowances, etc. Didn't look a massive horse. But he's with Noel Mead. Now, Noel Mead had both full sisters to this horse prior to 6-shooter being born. He's got 6-shooter, he's got the boy. He won his first race, then he sold him to Gigginstown. I just think he will be quietly under the radar, I suspect. But I think that bumper form will work out well. I think he's decent. First mare that I've mentioned here, probably going to be the only mare, is Yellow Dockets. So Gretchen Parkin had their dispersal. Stuart Parkin brought back Yellow Dockets. So he's got his own ownership, I believe. She's a 7-year-old now, so there's maybe a lot of her improvement has been done, but she's lightly raced. She's rated 132. She spanked Printing Dollars by 5 lengths, who's now rated 135. It might send her chasing. She was running over 2 mile 5 her last 2 starts. She looks like she wants a trip. There's just something about this Yellow Dockets that I think she's got some more winning in her. Now, Paul Nicholls knows how to train a staying chaser. There's probably not many that are better than him at it. And Master Tommy Tucker was a horse that ran at Chepstow last season. Big reputation. Lots of people were vying about him. smashed into a fence, and that was his season over. Now, he's back working from what I've seen on Twitter. He's one of those that now he's unfortunately fell in that situation. You can look at the positive from it, that he's retained his novice status. He hasn't run very much for an older horse. I guess the plan would be the RSA like last season, and it will be very much taking it race by race of him. But I'm just really keen to see him back out again, because he looked like he had loads of ability, and he could be a pretty decent horse. I think Nicholls likes to target horses at Chepstow as well, so I'll be very interested to see if he sticks him in that same race again that he came a cropper in last year. But maybe Master Tommy the names, look at me. Master Tommy Tucker could be one for maybe earlier on in his career, or earlier on in his racing this season. The mindful thing to be with him is the fact that he's a bit of an older horse. He's obviously very fragile, and he did balls up over fences last season. So another Nicholls horse is Asked for Glory. So I mentioned about him targeting Chepstow. So he ran there at Christmas, won impressively in his bumper. I know for a fact that there was a slight dispute between trainer and connectual. There's a few owners, so it might have even been the connections, but there was arguments, maybe not arguments. There was a discussion to be had about whether he was going to run in the champion bumper or not. He's raced exclusively on soft ground. It was soft in the bumper. They ran him there, but he was definitely, again, like I mentioned, I think trainers run their horses there for the feel of the festival, as opposed to maybe thinking of winning a race. Probably weren't too hard on him. We'll have to see the marks that leaves, because the champion bumper does seem to leave some marks on horses. But looks a nice type. We'll just have to see, where I mentioned he raced exclusively on soft last season, if that's the thing with him. Another one that I reckon a lot of people should be keeping an eye on, but I don't know whether they will or not, is Dashel Drasher. So he started off at the beginning of the season and sort of ran okay at Chepstow at the beginning of the season. Next time at Newbury, ran quite well in a race that looked quite decent, where Bright Forecast ran. The Ben Paulding horse looks decent in his own right. And then he stepped back up to Chepstow, went back to Chepstow, stepped up to 2 miles, 3.5, and then he ran, I think he went and won there. Yeah, in between that, I think he got fancied and he got backed into it. But he won a race, he kept being backed, and then he kept on to go win races. He won at Ascot, that was a short head. But I just like the determination and grip of this horse. He went and won on good ground at Cheltenham at the end of the season. They had ruled him out of a race. They'd withdrawn him for a race because they said unsuitable ground when it was good, quick ground. Maybe that's not so much of a problem with him. He is rated in the 140s, I think. Probably reached his ceiling in that division, but he's just got a really, really nice attitude. If they do decide to go chasing with him, he'll pick up some novice chase races in there. I'm not saying this one's going to be a top grade horse either, and I think he's probably stuck around the middle trip, if I'm really honest about him. But that official rating mark is probably going to be in around the bracket of the Close Brothers novices chase. So if he manages to just sort of hold his own in novice chases at the beginning of the season, that could be the sort of target you see him at the end. But there's loads of these novice chases over the middle trips that horses go and run in. You've seen, we had Glenn Forza and the one before that won it the year before, Mr. Whitaker. So, you know, there's those sort of races they can go in and win, and we'll see how they progress. But I think Dashwood Rash is a nice one you want to keep on the right side of. Beakstown, another one that will probably be quite obvious. It seems a long time ago now that Dan Skelton and Willie Mullins went to war over this one in the sale ring. I think it was an undisclosed fee, but I think it was in excess of 400,000. Always going to make a chase. There was a big horse when he won the Leamington Novices Hurdle, but he showed there that he was a proper sort by winning a decent race. The runner-up, Stony Mountain, went to the festival like he did. Stony Mountain stepped up to go the Albert Bartlett trip. Both the horses pulled up, but again, I think it was a case of running them there just for a bit of experience. And I know after Beakstown won that novice hurdle at Warwick, that they were I'm in an iron whether it was best to send him to Cheltenham or whether to let him skip it. So I think they sent him there for the experience outside of trying to win a race. I'm not sold whether he's going to be a 3-miler, especially the demands that an RSA will have. Given how much they pay, that's probably a more prestigious race for him to aim at, but I could easily see him going off favourite for a JLT or running very well in a JLT. We'll see how he goes, but he's a big horse, and he looks every inch a chaser. And then the last one that I'll chuck in, another Willie Mullins horse, another one that I think now will look every inch a chaser, although I haven't seen him for a couple of seasons, or missed last season, is Draconium. Speed merchant, I think he can probably clean up in the 2-mile novice chases this season. He probably could have cleaned up in the 2-mile novice chases last season. He picked up a little injury. He's still only a 6-year-old, but he had already started to score over fences, and Willie Mullins made a comment in a stable tour quite early last season saying that he likened him to Footpad in the way that he was chasing, just that sort of feel about him. So I know Footpad might not have shown it this season, but in his novice state, you know, that's big sort of boots to fill for this Draconian. He's a 151 rated hurdler. He won at the Punchestown Festival. He's fairly lightly raced. He'd have had another summer at grass. He'd have got even bigger, I would have thought. It's probably about 40 to 1, I reckon, for the Arc or something like that. But I just think he looks like a real nice type. I won't be able to get as much racing as the one he was compared to, Footpad, so you'll probably only see him a couple of times this season maybe, but if they can keep him sound and then he does jump a fence as well as we think he might, he could be a sort of under the radar 2-mile Arkle type horse. So I'm going to try and get a few more of these videos out. I'm going to try and put some bits in behind me to see if I can make this look a little bit better, and then as the season goes on I'm going to produce some more of these. Appreciate any of your feedback, guys, and I do appreciate all the support that I get through the page as well. If there's anything you'd like me to particularly talk through or anything you'd like me to try and do, then I'll get it done. But when I'm going racing this season, I'm going to try and meet up with a few other people, try and get some extra views and opinions in as content on the page. Just try and give you guys more and more information that goes on there. Next piece I've got sort of lined up is looking at the official ratings as they stand from the back end of last National Hunt season. So we're looking at the high rated horses full stop. Then we'll look at the high rated novices in terms of hurdlers and chasers, and I'll give you a bit of a rundown on those horses, what I picked up from those as the season went on last year, sort of in the reviews I've been looking at, or replays, and also maybe an idea of what I think their targets could be and who could maybe be the potential fly in the ointments, and also just to really show you, especially for the Gold Cup and the King George this season, we're set up to have a fantastic season for those sort of races, given how good the RSA was and given how good the actual Gold Cup itself was. So loads of stuff that's going to be coming up, and obviously we've not got long until the season will be starting proper. Anything you guys want to know, as always, you can just ask me. I'll try and get as much content as I can at the beginning of the season and throughout the season, and then all the way up to March, and then hopefully by then we're just full of it. We've got a load of money in our pockets from all these handicap plots that we've picked out, and then we smash it up at the festival as well. So thanks for watching this, guys, and like I say, I appreciate any feedback or any comments you've got.